Alright guys, this is Adam with Rancid and Sweaty Calves coming at you with yet another video. Just as I promised, I'm doing one covering the Lord of the Rings beard situation. For those of you who don't know, dwarves are born with beards. It doesn't matter if they are male or female, they're born with beards, and they're born with those as a distinction and as a genetic default for their race, because dwarves are a race. It doesn't matter, they're not skin color, they're not ethnicity, they're not culturally based. Dwarves as a race of beings, are born with beards. That's just factual. That's what Tolkien wrote in his book. That's the definition of a dwarf. That's what separates them from most individuals. Now, some people have claimed that because of a letter that Tolkien wrote in 1973, the year he died, to a woman who asked him about beards and bearded characters, this woman, I don't remember her name, she asked Tolkien, hey, do characters like Aragorn, Boromir, and what's the other guy's name? Do they have beards? And Tolkien wrote back saying, I've never really thought of them having beards. Now, one thing that's very important is that this woman left out Gimli. She never asked if Gimli had a beard. Gimli, as a dwarf, has a beard because he is a dwarf, because that's part of his race, that's part of his genetic makeup. He always has a beard because he is a dwarf. All dwarves have long, thick beards. That's part of what being a dwarf means. So, we got some promotional images from the Rings of Power TV series that Amazon's going to be making, and one of them shows the Black Dwarf Queen. So first of all, dwarves, because of the fact that they were because of the fact that they dwell in caves, probably don't have darker skin. They probably have lighter skin due to just microevolutionary genetics. For those of you who don't know, microevolution is basically tiny little changes that will happen to a person over time. Kind of like how a person can work out and they'll get bigger muscles. That's a form of microevolution. So a microevolution, which is what I believe the only accurate version of evolution out there, microevolution, stuff that happens on a small scale, not in complete and total changes. For dwarves, because of the fact that they dwell in caves, apart from sunlight, out of the reach of the eyes, out of the reach of beams of light and stuff like that, since they dwell in darker places, they have fairer skin, they have whiter skin. That's just a form of microevolution. Take a look at a place like Africa, where it was outside a lot, it was in the middle of some of the hottest temperatures, it was warm, muggy, hot, safari type stuff. And they have darker skin because their bodies adapted to live in those darker places. Whereas if you look at something like Alaska, people are albinos because of the fact that they live in such cold climates and they live in such areas that are away from sunlight for so long. Now, dwarves, if you follow that basic idea of microevolution, the basic idea of microevolutionary ideas, dwarves would have whiter skin because they're out of the sunlight, because they're in shady places, because they dwell underground, because they don't have that same atmospheric relation that other people with darker skin might have. And that's the main thing. That's the reason why dwarves have white skin. It's not because Tolkien was racist. It was because he thought of this stuff, because he understood basics about human biology and genetics, and he was able to write about it in a coherent way. He was able to make a story that made sense, and he was able to make entire ethnicities and races and cultures based off of simple scientific principles. So to have the dwarf queen be beardless, which goes against dwarf genetics, and be black is a complete and total diversion. I mean, not diversion. Diversion away from what is actually written in the Lord of the Rings, what is actually in the continuity, what is actually a part of Lord of the Rings continuity, what is actually understood as lore. For those of you who don't know what lore is, it's basically just the continuity of a story. And here we go. There's an article here I'll read a little bit of it to you guys. What is this? What is going on? Okay, I think there was some sort of pop-up ad that was going to try and take over my screen. So it goes, Amazon's Lord of the Rings series is already mired in controversy, with the Rings of Power showcasing beardless dwarven women that break Tolkien's lore. Which is a fact! It is a fact that it breaks Tolkien's lore. Let's see what their excuse is. First revealed as a 2022 Super Bowl advertisement, the Rings of Power teaser trailer grants a first look at Amazon's grandiose Lord of the Rings prequel series. It's not going to be grandiose. It looks like a freaking generic, boring fantasy series. If you haven't seen my video on the actual covering of the trailer, go check it out, because it really does just look like a generic fantasy series. It looks like something like the Hercules series from the 80s or the 90s. It doesn't look all that interesting. While the trailer has received a decidedly mixed reception upon release, there has been a universal outcry from the Lord of the Ring fan base regarding the dwarven princess Disa, Sophia Namvetti, I'm guessing is how you pronounce her, whose lack of a beard has startled those familiar with J.R.R. Tolkien's original works. Now let's see what they're going to say. I hope that they don't say, this is just the misunderstanding of his writing. Incorporating Tolkien's tales, the Silmarillion, Lord of the Rings of Power tells the story of Middle-earth's Second Age, and the 2,500 years before the War of the Ring. In particular, the Rings of Power focuses on Sauron's myriad deceptions and the forging of the 20 rings that form the backbone of the Third Age conflicts depicted in Peter Jackson's original Lord of the Rings trilogy. So yeah, they're taking the Silmarillion, which is like a really small, tiny appendices of what actually takes place before the main story of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, which is in the Third Age. So this is going to focus on the Second Age of Middle-earth, and it's going to be 2,500 years worth of content in 5 seasons. I don't know how they're going to do that. That sounds completely insane. And they're just, it's basically going to be that. So they give a little bit of background here. They mentioned Peter Jackson's original Lord of the Rings movies, which are great, by the way. Check them out. I would recommend the extended editions because those are peak cinema. Great stories, really great stories. Probably the best interpretation of a book to movie that I have ever seen. I wonder if they're going to mention the fact that Sauron seduced elven forgers into making the rings. Probably not, because then they'd have to make then they'd have to make a correlation between Sauron and being gay. And we all know gay people can't be evil in the media. Yeah, like that's true. Alright, yet while much news of the Rings of Power teaser has been met with cautious optimism, no it hasn't, Disa's lack of a beard is an aesthetic decision that goes against every existing piece of dwarven lore. Thank you! Screen Rant is being accurate. This is something I did not expect to see, because most of the time when articles about stuff like this come out, whoever's covering it is usually shilling for the movie or the series that is completely contradicting proven lore. This character design choice has angered the Lord of the Rings fandom, accurate, with both the Rings of Power trailer and Vanity Fair's exclusive first look at the series clearly showing Disa barefaced in direct opposition to the franchise's prior statements. Accurate. Gimli's monologue in Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, best exemplifies this, with the Dwarven warrior clearly stating that male and female dwarves are indistinguishable from one another due to their bearded appearances. Yes, this is accurate. This is 100% accurate. And it's actually confirmed by Tolkien in the description that he has of the dwarves. All dwarves are born with beards. That's something that can't be gotten around. It can't be walked around, it can't be moved around, it can't be avoided, because it's something that was described that encapsulates and kind of marks every dwarf ever born. They're born with beards. Now, I guess they're going to say something along the lines of, well, they decided to shave. They decided to shave her beard because she was the princess. But if you actually take a look at some more of the lore, dwarves actually hide their women away from the outside world. The female dwarves are hidden away from prying eyes as a way to keep people from knowing that female dwarves exist. It's a form of trickery that they play. It's actually a form of protection as well. Now, I'm not going to try to cover the rest of this article because it looks like all of it is actually, I'm not sure, I haven't read through it prior to this, but from what I have read, they seem to be in agreement with the fact that dwarves, factually speaking, should have beards. So I'll cut the video off in a few moments here, but I want to explain that the whole like dwarves hide their women away from the outside world. So every dwarven woman has a beard, and every dwarf is born with a beard. So it's a way to hide how they reproduce. It's a way for them to stay mystical and mythical among the prying eyes of the outside world. Not only that, but their skin color does not it's not varied, okay? Dwarves are white because, again, as I mentioned earlier in the video, they have this microevolutionary trait where their bodies actually adapted to this darker area that they continually live in, which is in caves and underground mines, and they have white skin because of the fact that they have a lack of sunlight hitting them and they don't tan up as much. Like, I myself am white, and I tan when I go out in the sun because of the fact that I have some sort of melanin thing going on in my body. It's a form of microevolution in the sense that I get a little bit of a suntan. And people who have different shades of skin due to different amounts of melanin can get darker or lighter based off of how much sunlight they get. So dwarves having a lower amount of melanin because they're not born in these climates that have massive amounts of sunlight, and they're actually raised in caverns and in caves and in cave systems and in underground mines, makes sense that they would have lighter skin. Makes sense that they would be in lighter skin with lighter hair colors, so on and so forth. But they're probably going to ignore that in the Amazon series because Amazon is woke, and they're going to take a property that actually has some notoriety to it, some level of success, and they're going to tear it down because they want to take something that is already proven to last the test of times and already has merit, and they want to take that and ruin it by injecting social justice warriorism in it. In case you haven't seen it yet, go check out my last video on this on the trailer where I talk about what it is. I kind of yell a lot in that video, so forgive me for being angry, but it is, I do call this series Rancid for a reason, okay? I'm going to get upset at stuff that completely contradicts lore, that completely contradicts what was actually originally created, and I'm going to get upset at when people take stories and tear them down. I'm also going to get upset at political stuff too, because this story didn't have politics in it. It was literally just a fantasy that focused on the fight between good and evil, and they're injecting politics into it, and that's what makes me angry. Leave the politics out of it. Leave it out. Leave politics out of this stuff. But right here, this promotional image of the princess dwarf, like the dwarf princess, is already showing that they're injecting politics. They're injecting diversity and inclusion and representation into their stuff. That's all they're doing. They're taking something that is well known and they are injecting social justice warrior politics into it, and it is agitating beyond belief. Just leave it be. I wish that this was never made. Just leave it be. Just let us watch the original trilogy and read the original books and enjoy it for what it is. Don't ruin it with politics and social justice warrior crap, okay? That's all we're asking. That's all Lord of the Rings fans are asking. That's all people want, is for something to go untouched by leftist propaganda. That's all we want. But no, we're not going to get that. We're going to get so much leftist politics and leftist propaganda injected into something that never had anything to do with politics in the first place. Anyways, that's been me with Rancid and Sweaty Calves, Adam Gillespie, in case you forgot my name. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got a chuckle out of my ranting and hopefully enjoyed my angry speeches about what's going on with this stuff. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It's a small thing for you guys to do, but it means a huge amount to me. It really does. To know that there are people out there who actually enjoy my content, are liking the videos, and just commenting their thoughts down below, sharing their opinions with me. I appreciate it. I really do. And subscribing helps me boost through the algorithm, and we all know that YouTube doesn't like people who say what I say, so I really do appreciate any help you guys can give me. Also, share the video with your friends if you enjoyed it. If you agree with it, great. But really, that's all I have to say for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really do. And I hope you have a great day and a great rest of the week.